Hello my creative critters, and welcome to Sketching with Sarah. I'm Sarah, and today I'm very excited to finally share with you this fun side project that I've been working on. I did the majority of this on the 27-hour car ride from Florida back to my home back in December, and today I'm sharing with you the time-lapse drawing in Procreate of turning my friend's dog Spunky into a Pokemon. Here is a picture of Spunky. I love this dog and she's so cute, and it was recently my friend's birthday. I had this idea for a while, and ever since I came up with it after seeing an ad for a similar service on Instagram where you submit a photo of your pet and they make it into a Pokemon card too, the first thing I thought of was I can definitely do that, so I did. It was so hard for me not to spoil it and tell him though. That was probably the most challenging part of this whole thing. So now that his birthday has passed and he has the cards now, I can share it with you guys. I started by trying to find a base of the vintage electric type card, and I ended up finding a free downloadable version on PNG Egg, and I'll link that in my description if you want to make your own Pokemon card. I think they have all the other types too, which is pretty cool. I'll also link where I got the back of the Pokemon card that I used to print on the back of it. I found the back of the card as a high resolution file from someone who made it on DeviantArt for the purpose of creating custom cards, so I'll definitely be linking them below. They're doing God's work. Otherwise, a lot of people end up using and sacrificing real Pokemon cards, which I've honestly been tempted to do and paint and customize on a real Pokemon card that maybe isn't worth very much just for fun. But doing it digitally is also an option too, so I thought I'd go along with that. If I couldn't find a free downloadable version of the base or like the back of the card, I could have just scanned one of my vintage electric cards, and I would have had to get rid of the text and everything on the front side. It is doable, but I'm happy that I found one online. So when thinking about what type of Pokemon to make Spunky into, it was kind of a no-brainer that she's an electric type. Her personality and spice and her fluffy hair and tail, and the way that her hair sticks out, especially when her hair gets really long and poofy, it's hard not to see a little baby Jolteon. So I used Jolteon as heavy inspiration. I'll pop a photo here of Jolteon just in case you aren't aware. Very spiky, lots of sharp lines. I definitely kept that in mind while I was creating the design for Spunky. Spunky also has giant eyes that bulge out of her face, being a Chihuahua, so of course I had to make her eyes ginormous in the illustration. And I started to add in the line art and then added some basic flat colors. Spunky is mostly an off-white color and has some brown spots and patches. And to translate that into electric, I chose a pale yellow and a more saturated yellow so you can see the contrast. My favorite part is adding in all the shapes to break up those flat colors and add texture. It's very satisfying to me to make those pointy lines and those crisp edges. Then I started working on the background, and I did a lot of trial and error and finally decided she would be hanging out in a garden or something with little sprouts around her. I love the pops of pink and the color palette in general. It's very springy and happy colors, and I'm overall pretty happy with the design. If you know me, you know I love Pokemon, and specifically I have recently gotten back into Pokemon cards. I have a lot of videos on my channel drawing my favorite Pokemon, so if you want to see me drawing other Pokemon, feel free to check around my channel and I'll have some links here for you too. I used to collect Pokemon cards growing up, and I still have my old collection, which is something that I know a lot of people can't say, which is cool. I recently hardcore fell in love with collecting again after going to the flea market months ago and thumbing through thousands and thousands of cards at one of the sellers' booths. I think I stood there for like 3 hours or something ridiculous. For me, collecting Pokemon cards is like collecting art, and it makes me so happy organizing and looking through my binder and seeing all of my favorite Pokemon in all kinds of art styles, and it just brings me so much joy. It is a dangerous and sometimes expensive hobby though, so I have to be careful to stick to my budget because it's so easy to see an evolution, for example, that's over like $100, and it can be tempting, but I just can't justify spending over $100 on one card. I am just such a sucker for Eevees though, I won't lie. I'll get made fun of sometimes in whatnot streams where people are selling Pokemon cards and kind of known as the person that will buy damaged cards, because like I said, for me collecting isn't about really the monetary value, it's more of collecting all of the art and being able to display them in my binder. So if it has some whitening, maybe a crease, I don't really care. And I know it makes a lot of people cringe when they look through my binder and see some creases and whitening and scratching on the surface. And I'll never forget, as a kid, I was going through these shoe boxes at a garage sale full of Pokemon cards, and I ended up just buying all of them. I think there were like, it was a really good deal. It was like maybe $10 for like 3 shoe boxes full of cards. And they were probably sitting in a basement for years, and the parents were just trying to get rid of them. And when I brought them home, my mom immediately was like, these kind of stink a little bit. They felt like they were maybe moldy or something, and me being a kid that was very allergic to mold and dust, my mom was, I get my mom was looking out for me and of course had my best interest at heart. I mean, they're just little toy Pokemon cards, who cares, right? But without my knowledge, she took all of those cards and she put them in the dryer. I guess the logic was to loosen all that dust and make it a little bit more dry and less like musty looking. I'm not really sure. But of course, when you put a bunch of cards in the dryer, all of the edges get super white and the corners get very creasy, and they're just obviously not minty anymore. Not that they were to begin with, but it would have been nice to not have such beat up cards, especially since going through them recently, I realized that I have a lot of first editions and some rare cards, so that was kind of a bummer. But I think for that reason, I'm not really attached to Pokemon cards in the same way that a lot of people are, as far as having super minty cards with really good value. But anyway, all of that said, there is one Pokemon that I'm willing to drop money for, and that is a Furret. I'm trying to get all of them and the Centrets, but they are just so hard to find because no one loves them enough to keep any of them. And if you're curious and would like to see my collection so far of all my cards, I would love to show you. I don't think I'll make a YouTube video about it, but I'd love to do a live stream on Twitch or on here to show you. I just love looking through my binders. So back to the drawing, once I finished the art part, it was time to add in her abilities and attacks. I really took my time and put a lot of thought into all of her abilities and tried to make them very custom to Spunky, but still be able to work like a card in the Pokemon trading card game. There are a lot of inside joke type things that my friend would definitely understand about Spunky, or if you know Spunky, you would get it too. For example, she loves to bury herself into blankets and pillows. So naturally I had to make her ability Static Charge, where she can gain more energy cards. Another one of my favorites was Yap Zap, which was just a play on like electricity zapping and how she will yap at anyone that walks past us in a walk. Any other dogs and everything, she will speak her mind. So not only does that attack do a little bit of damage, but it also has the chance to make that Pokemon paralyzed by flipping a coin. But also, if you get a Tails, Spunky gets paralyzed, which I think kind of makes sense because I think she's more bark than bite for sure. And she's kind of overpowered in all of her other attacks, so I felt like that balanced her out even just a little bit. And you can pause to read all of her abilities and everything, but I had a lot of fun translating some of Spunky's quirks into powers and coming up with her little description at the bottom. And of course, she is one of one and has infinite HP. She is also first edition, clearly. So once I was happy with it, a whole new challenge was printing them so that the backside lined up with the front, and then cutting them by hand and using scissors to round the corners. The ones that I ended up keeping are misprints, you could say, where the back didn't really line up perfectly. So there's a little bit of a white line on the sides, and the corners weren't as nicely rounded because, like I said, I used just scissors and just eyeballed the best I could. I now have a new appreciation for perfectly centered cards and everything because doing this stuff by hand is not easy, and I know that robots do it when they mass produce the Pokemon cards, but it was interesting to have this behind the scenes experience making my own card. And I tried to make these as minty as I could, but with the paper that I used and the dullness of the blade that I used to cut them, it was a challenge. It was a lot of trial and error. At one point I tried to use the guillotine machine, but that wasn't as accurate as I needed it to be. I tried one of those straight cutters with the round blade that you swipe across. That one didn't work as well because the blade was pretty dull, so it ended up making fuzzy lines. So I ended up using a fresh bladed box cutter because I couldn't find new blades for the X-Acto knife that was there. So I used a good old blade and a ruler to do a more exact cut where I needed it to be. And like I said, it was a lot of trial and error, but when I finally cut the perfect one, it was all worth it. I also had to laminate one because there was a laminator, and why not? It was so funny. I revealed the card to him by having him look through my binder because I had recently gotten a lot of new cards since the last time he went through it. And having the card in there amongst all of my other electric Pokemon, it's kind of hard to spot just off of first glance because it really does blend in pretty well. And when he got to that page, you know, he was scanning all of the cards and looking through them. And then when he got to that one, he didn't realize that I made that card at first, and his first reaction was to be so pissed off that someone used his dog as a new Pokemon. And then obviously he realized it and thought it was hilarious, and it was just so rewarding to see his reaction. I am thinking about opening commissions to make your pet into a Pokemon card too. I think it's just such a fun idea for pet lovers and Pokemon lovers alike, especially if you collect Pokemon cards. I think we all like to think that our pet has some superpowers, and making them into a Pokemon is just really fun for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching me create this custom Pokepet card of Spunky, and if you did, don't forget to leave this video a like and subscribe. I have a new video for you here every Friday, and I'd love to have you here. If you made it this far, leave me a comment and let me know if your pet was a Pokemon, what type of Pokemon would it be? My dog would probably be a water type. She loves the water and the snow. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay creative, and I will see you in next Friday's video.